universe.
Welcome to Two Balls and a Mic. We have a midweek special surprise for everybody. You can find his great writing over at The Athletic. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and welcome the man, the myth, the legend, the everything USL person, the go-to goat of the USL reporting world, Mr. Jeff Rueter. How are you, Jeff?
Good guys, that was too much, but your theme song's great, so I'll take it. I'm hyped. I'm good.
Hey,
I love the music. That was really, really good.
Hey, appreciate it. Shout out to Fierce Beats, one of our coworkers, also was a beat writer, so shout out to him too, one of our sponsors. How are you, Jeff? I mean, let's get right into it. You know, obviously, USL is a part of what you do over at The Athletic, but you know that's kind of where you grew up in a sense in your career with Minnesota United. We'll move into this next season coming up, 2021. Obviously, a plan is probably to go to more than 0 games as opposed to last year. But ideally, so what are some things that you're looking forward to here in this 2021 upcoming season?
Just going to games, guys. I mean, like, I wish that I had a better answer, but it all starts with that because I mean, so Minnesota United is in my backyard. I cover Major League Soccer and the USL, some NWSL as well, increasingly. But MLS, Minnesota United, that tends to be kind of the heart of what I do. It tends to be the center. It is in terms of geographically, epicenter wise, because into USL club within like a very quick drive from me at this point, which is unfortunate. But at the rate that the league's expanding, I mean, I give it like 2 seasons tops. Who knows? So they were on the road. Minnesota United was on the road for the first 2 games before the pandemic. They're in San Jose and Portland, I think. And then there was 2 months off, and then they never played a game with crowds for the rest of the year. And they had some press. It just didn't feel like the right time for me. And so much of why I want to be in stadiums is to get that crowd feel, to get the atmosphere, to be able to pick up on how that affects the game itself. So to be in that absence and to be covering games from your sofa, to be I mean, like, look, it's like watching Man United or Chelsea on your couch, right? Like you get into it, you get excited about it, but you're doing this. You're checking your phone once in a while. You're tuned out. You're going to go to the fridge and you're going to grab whatever else from it. So being able to be back, being able to be in that sort of space, to actually be getting the energy from it, like it's been a year of this, right? And at a certain point, you just need to get that energy going in all areas of it. I know the players and the coaches feel the exact same way. I know that general managers have told me about this for that point matter, just about how different it is to watch these teams that you put together thinking they can handle the pressure. They'll be able to do it on an away day, and suddenly you don't even have to worry about that. Like last year, you could have signed 5 different players on any single team, and it would have turned out very differently. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see bigger groups in the USL and actually be able to get a little more schedule variety, which would be good.
Yeah.
Even if you are still playing opponents 4 times a year. And I don't know, it's going to be a busy international year as well. So ready or not, the fire hose is about to get going, and there's going to be a whole lot of domestic soccer heading our way. Knock on wood, because, you know, don't take this pandemic world for granted.
I love it.
Yeah, so you're like, just like you said, Minnesota's in your backyard. I mean, for us, last year, SD Loyal is now in our backyard, and it's the first time ever we have soccer in San Diego, and we were so excited about it. We didn't think we were gonna cover it as much as we are, but we're so glad that we are. So with this team, we saw last year, kind of they developed their identity, what they stand for, which is everything's amazing. But where do you see this team going long term? Do you see them maybe being more of a USL franchise, or maybe going to the MLS? What do you see the potential that SD Loyal has?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question, because I feel like so much of that is still unpredictable, because I think that on paper you would look at San Diego and you would say, among the markets that aren't already in Major League Soccer, it is one of, if not, I mean, like, it's a top 5 most prominent market outside of the league right now, right? And for a while with MLS expansion, you would say, okay, well, that's enough. Like you would just look, you would say, okay, we want to plant our flag in all of these cities. We're in Seattle. We want to go to Atlanta. We want to go to Orlando. We want to go to Miami, right? We had another club in New York. And that was where expansion went from. But they would have to incorporate different clubs with it, and they would say, okay, there's a fan base growing in Minnesota, and a local owner who's very interested in bringing a club there. And Minnesota United moves from the NASL. FC Cincinnati, nobody expected it to take off the way it did. They deservedly got a spot in Major League Soccer. You could say the same thing, frankly, about Sacramento. And so that moves to specifically, that's so relevant right now because now Sacramento, their bid for MLS fell through. And that does open the door, at least theoretically, for San Diego, for Phoenix, for Las Vegas to really make a push to be that 30th club. If you say, okay, well, you wanted someone Western, you want someone Pacific, Mountain Time, whatever, let's make it happen. So it does open that potential again. The question then would be, now that MLS knows what's going on with the Galaxy, with LAFC, with the Earthquakes, do they want another MLS club in California if they know they could go to Arizona and Nevada? And they're going to have to consider what's more valuable, San Diego specifically, or having a greater presence in the western half of the country outside of California. But I don't think that that's even the main factor, the main consideration, if you will, in terms of what could make this club successful. I think that you've seen it with the Tampa Bay Rowdies for a decade now, including the NASL, and they have continually proven to be a viable soccer brand without going to Major League Soccer. You've seen it with Louisville City being able to build that stadium without the sort of tease even of Major League Soccer coming into the area. That was a stadium that was built with no sort of winks and nods about trying to move to the first division. That's a second division stadium. You can achieve that. I think that there is a tremendous amount of potential that is growing, in particular, to be a second division soccer club in the men's game in the United States. And I will say that that foundation looks to have been with the fan culture, which unfortunately, again, weren't able to see it quite in the same stadium sort of arena, but we'll get there. And I will get there to a game or two once in a while, hopefully this year, maybe next. Depends when it's safe. But, I want to check it out because that is a club that already has, it's caught the eye, right? For reasons on the field. Of course, when you have a coach like Landon Donovan, it's going to get kind of a casual American soccer fan interested. But I mean, you look at social statements, you look at some of the community aspects of it. And again, a market that a lot of people looked at and said, why isn't there a pro soccer club there? I think a lot of people are very curious about it. And there are far worse things to be in your second year than a club that sparks a lot of people's curiosity.
No, definitely. And I mean, speaking of San Diego Loyal and the potential, right? Obviously, happy belated birthday. We were involved in a thread on Twitter for Announce Sanchez. I don't think that's happening today, Jeff. I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed with this announcement. Obviously, I think we can confirm with you on air today that it's not happening this season.
Not this season.
Not this season. So we'll look over into next year and hopefully see you in training camp for that fifth spot. But let's talk about some of the signings though, because San Diego Loyal has been making some refuerzos, like you say in Spanish, some good signings to have this team to come in with the bang. Obviously, we can talk about the new signings. What can you tell us with here San Diego Loyal? Even just saying, hey, things you love to see. New guys in town early: Nick Jackson, Corey Herzog, and Trey Muse. What can you tell us a little bit about these players? Maybe Jack Blake. What can we expect here in San Diego with these names?
Yeah, I mean, like these are players who have the experience, and I think that is valuable. Not to say that the initial roster, the inaugural roster last year, didn't have experience, but now you are taking the players that fit what Donovan wants to be doing, and you're adding to it. You're adding players like Jack Blake, who has he has captained a team to the USL Championship final and to the title. That is a player that's valuable. Right. And he's going to be, I've covered him since he first came to the United States with Minnesota United, actually in 2016. He's a player who is going to give some of, if not the absolute best free kicks in the USL. He is a player who is going to be able to set the tempo from the midfield. He is very confident with the ball at his feet. He's also very confident with picking a pass and trying to break a line. since he got here from Nottingham Forest in 2016, I will also say that his defensive work rate has improved significantly. He is acclimated to how the game is played in the United States, just the more kind of physical nature of it, or the different physicality necessary to play in the lower divisions, we'll say, in the United States compared to the lower divisions in England. And I think that he is one of the best two-way midfielders in the USL. That's a good player to have. Tomas Vacancele, who comes over from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, he's an all-league defender. That's the kind of player that you would want, right? And I know that you had an all-league defender from the Riverhounds last year with Joe Greenspan, and he dealt with his injuries. But Tomas is going to be able to come in, and he'll be able to do a lot of very necessary work in stabilizing that back line, making sure goals don't leak in, but also be able to push the ball forward and kind of spring counters. That's important to have. Corey Herzog comes in from Reno. He has, again, that sort of winning pedigree. You're seeing a theme already. And he chipped in some goals. He is he's not necessarily going to create as many of his own goals. He is going to be reliant on service. But if you're confident in the service of players like Jack Blake, or if you think you're going to have service from wide, that's okay. You need goal scorers. Ultimately, you lost Rubio Rubin in the offseason. You're going to need to be able to make those up somewhere. So that is another benefit. Losing John Kempen, in comes Trey Muse, someone who's younger, someone who has maybe less experience in the second division or the first division than Kempen did. But he outgrew Tacoma Defiance, I would say. And I think that he had shown that with a young defense that was trying to get its professional footing, he had risen to the occasion multiple times. I remember specifically a game late in the season against I say I remember a game and I already forget the opponent, but it was late in 2019, so it feels like a decade ago, and it was against either El Paso or New Mexico, and they were just pushing and pushing and pushing to be able to get a game winner so that they could get into a better seeding in the postseason. And Trey Muse, with the leaky defense ahead of him, the young defense ahead of him, was just standing on his head and keeping so many shots out that he had no business saving in theory, but he just was always smart with his positioning. His reflexes are strong. We'll see about his distribution. That's always a question with a young goalkeeper, though. And especially, as he's getting into his 20s now, he's going to want to be able to refine that. He's going to want to be in a position to take over whenever Stefan Frei moves on from the Seattle Sounders. That's a good player to have. That's a hungry player. And I think that that's a theme here, is that if they're not players with winning pedigrees, they are players with something to prove. Mm-hmm. And those are two just general genres of players you would want, rather than the kind of guy who's maybe achieved it all and is looking for either, a check, which you're not always going to find in the USL, to be fair, but a job and minutes and, just kind of a chance to live in San Diego. Those aren't those types of players, but those would be very easy players to find all the same. So I think that it's one of the best off seasons I've seen in the USL so far. Yeah. No one wants to say they won the off season because of the pressure that comes to women. And frankly, the off season winner rarely wins the season title, regular season, or the playoffs. So you're kind of tap dancing around that, but I don't have to tap dance around that. Oh, yeah. So, exactly. That's on the players, that's on the coaches, and that's on the fan base to kind of grapple with. But it is one of the best off seasons I've seen so far. And we still have a month to go, to be fair.
Definitely great things happening here in the city of San Diego too, not just with in soccer and the USL. Here in San Diego, we're buyers now. We buy, and it's a go-to market with the San Diego Padres. I know you're a Dodger fan. You don't want to hear that, real quick, Minnesota Twins fan, right?
You betcha.
Those darn Yankees, man, right? Every year. Won't get into that because it's a little painful. So what you're saying is, I have a running bet right now with Corey Herzog that I can stop at least 1 out of 5 shots that he has for a Diet Coke or a smoothie. So what do you think my odds are? Just one. All I need is one. It's full goal.
I would say first go for the smoothie. That's a higher value. You can get a Diet Coke for far cheaper. So at least price yourself up a little bit. Yes. But I would say 1 out of 5. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, read his eyes. Okay. But also just kind of get confident footing, right? And all you're going to really need to do is make sure that if you pick up the pattern on the first 2, if he's alternating, then try to alternate with him. Try to see which one he's going to try to fake you out and go right down the middle. If he's going to try a Panenka, don't let him score a Panenka on you. That's my one thing, actually. Do not give up a Panenka, because you will never forget it. It will haunt you for the rest of your life. As a former men's league goalkeeper, it will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Now, do you think if Corey misses, does that count as a save?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would count it. I would
Yes,
count it.
Wow.
yes. The presence
You guys
alone.
are all feeding Tony's
See?
ego right
See,
now.
no, it's not. He knows. As I said, a former men's league keeper. You just have to know. But I do want to say that it is exciting. Everything that's happening here in San Diego. Going back to that Trey Muse, we had some San Diego Loyal front office people who were a little curious. I know the answer is not going to be what we want. But I don't know if you realized you had a little run-in with Andrew Vasiliadis, the owner of San Diego Loyal. He wasn't too keen on the signing of Trey Muse being announced right before he was dropping his hints. Is that like a badge of honor for you? You know, I know that a lot of times that reporters get reached out by the club because they want to hype their players and whatnot. But you know, when you guys get to do that, is that like a little endorphin kick or a little, like I said, badge of honor?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's I will say it's never as clean as a club just reaching out and saying, "This is done. You should report it for us." It doesn't happen like that. You know, if it did, it would feel a little convenient, and I would kind of ask why at that point. But is it a badge of honor? It's my job, I guess. I don't know. I think that there's only so many people who consistently report on player movement in this country, and especially at the USL level. And I think that it's like, look, these are moves that change seasons, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that like Trey Muse cinches anything in particular, but in general, some player who makes that move is going to be the difference between a team finishing fourth in their conference and second, and might be the difference between them bowing out in the conference semifinals and making it all the way to the final. And that, regardless of how you like evaluate the transfer fees involved or what their pedigree is or the level, that is significant in a professional soccer league. That's always worth reporting to me. When I see club accounts or owners or general managers or coaches or whatever, kind of start to make their jokes about it, that's fine. That's cool. It's because it's accurate. That's the most important thing. I don't want to get anything wrong. I haven't gotten a report wrong in over 5 years at least, so that's good.
Nice.
But like that's what matters, honestly. And as long as you're not just kind of making something up completely, and all of a sudden they're calling you out on it and saying you're fake news, like that's when it's an issue. If it's them saying, okay, who are we signing next, and then you just kind of having to keep your head down and not knowing how to reply on Twitter, which is what I did in the case of Andrew. I didn't know what to say back, so I just liked it and left it. Like that's no offense, but also that's not why I do it. It's not because I'm doing it for the attention from the clubs or from the owners to be like, oh, this guy, right? It's just because the fans should be informed. And I know that fans look forward to it more when they know what's coming. They can get excited about it. And then the announcement video isn't a surprise. It's a victory lap for them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we're talking about Loyal getting some great signings in this offseason, but there are some great returning players as well. I mean, you have right now the hype is with Ben Spencer. Apparently, he's probably
Or in training camp, yeah.
in training camp. He's looking better than ever. So, what can you tell us about the returning players, and what are some of the expectations we should have about Ben Spencer, maybe
The resurgence?
Metcalf, or
Yeah.
even other players in Loyal?
I think just in general, what's good about a second year team is, well, let me preface it with this. At the USL, there are not many players who are signed to 2-year guaranteed contracts. So that can be frustrating if you're trying to accrue transfer fees, right? It can be frustrating if you're trying to know who to put on the back of your jersey, or who's going to be around for the long haul, who are you cheering for, who are your kids trying to emulate, all that stuff. What's good about it, though, is that when that player comes back, it's because the coach believes in them. And so you can talk about Ben Spencer, you can talk about Colin Martin, you can talk about, like there are capable players, but the difference between a first year club and a second year club is the first year club is making every signing at once, and they're hoping things are going to cobble together. And the second year club at least should have some semblance of a core, which they are looking to improve over what was there before. So the players who are back, I know that it's never as exciting as a new signing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're dependable. They're the ones that are going to be the leaders. They're going to set the tempo in terms of both on-field play and the locker room culture, which still needs establishing for a second-year team of any league. And that is a very important step to get right. So I would imagine that they will play as valuable of a role for the new players, just even to get situated as any of the guys that, again, you look at and say that's why the offseason was won. But they're going to also have to. They are the incumbents. It's hard to unseat an incumbent sometimes, and they're not going to want to lose their spots either. They're not going to see Jack Blake coming into the midfield and be like, "Well, I guess that makes me the third string."
Yeah.
Like, no, they're going to want to play for that as well. And training camp is going to be hard as a result. And Jack's got to bring it in order to get that starting spot. And I'm sure that he's been getting that message since day one, since he moved. So that's I guess that's I know it's not like specific like scouting report on each player, but
Yeah,
in general, I would say that when you're looking at it, keep in mind they're back for a reason, and it's not usually because they were promised that they would stay for 2 years. But if you're looking at a macro level with the team, then I mean, this was a team that really kind of shot up the table late in the year. Looked like they were going to be pushing for a playoff spot, and then for reasons both in and very much out of their control, from opponents being opponents, they missed the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? And I think that the way that happened puts a particularly bitter end to the season for so many reasons, at a human level first and a soccer level second, that it's kind of a redemption thing. And it's not a redemption in terms of we need to make things right because of what happened. It's no, let's prove that the momentum that we had wouldn't be stopped by what ended up stopping our season. And how do you build off of that? How do you show that, in a group where you have, who's all in it now? We got Phoenix, San Diego, Sacramento, Los Dos, and who's the other club that yesterday I think I said that there were about 5 clubs in that group that I look at as significantly, looking more likely to be pushing for a playoff spot, and I stand by that. But you're going to want to be in that group. You're going to think this is very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
You'll be looking at it and you'll say like, okay, Orange County, Galaxy 2, Sacramento, San Diego, Phoenix. Like those are the 5 clubs that, whether it's because of their roster specifically or just because of the culture that they have established within their clubs, they are going to expect to be in the playoffs. Tacoma is a developmental club. Oakland is an expansion club with a lot of new pieces and a brand new head coach who didn't really play in NISA. So they're going to be figuring a lot of things out. Las Vegas Lights are going to be an MLS affiliate. Now they will be an affiliate to arguably the best team in Major League Soccer, is certainly one of the top 3, but you could say the same about Tacoma Defiance. So the question then becomes, what is going to be the balance between veterans who have been in the league, loan down players from LAFC if they ever get any, or how many of them are going to be LAFC Academy players? I still wouldn't necessarily expect them to say challenge Phoenix, but I would say that would put them in a position where they could challenge whatever the LA Galaxy 2 have been, which is a pain for any opponent who underestimates them because they're an MLS 2 team. And you saw it last year. I think a lot of opponents have seen it over the years. So it's a good group. I like the Pacific group. I think it's one of the most balanced ones, honestly, which is more fun when you're playing opponents 4 times. You at least want there to be depth in the group and not 3 giants and 5 other teams trying to play catch up. So that bodes well for the new season. That should make it really easy to follow.
100%. And it's going to be an exciting season, especially since now we have a little familiarity with some of the opponents. As we were talking, they're opponents for a reason, and, for things on and off the field. And unfortunately, on that last Phoenix Rising and San Diego Loyal game, I was actually one of the few people in the stands for that. And it was just one of the most surreal things I've ever been a part of in the sport of soccer. No idea that what would unfold would happen. But if we want to move forward, we want to move past, I think we've spent enough of the pandemic talking about everything that happened before the pandemic and then last season. Moving forward, what would you say if something like that was to happen? Not just even in a San Diego Loyal game, in a USL game, and it rears its ugly head again as a team, as a league, as fans, as journalists. Like, what are the steps in that to do? Like, do you, it's been said, like, do you forfeit a game? Is that just going to be a strategy that's going to, and it seems a little silly, but to be even having these conversations should be silly because it's something that shouldn't happen in the first place.
Totally agree. I mean, that is a question that if the league doesn't have a confident answer, they've failed. And if they don't have the protocol, the process, the retribution, the punishment, whatever, if they don't have all of that ironed out before the season, I'm not sure it would quite become a break class in case of emergency situation where you say, okay, we're down 2-0, 5 minutes left. Let's have some hate speech and see how it goes. Right. But I think that there were some lingering questions that came out of this from across American soccer. This isn't just USL. This was something that MLS paid attention to, the NWSL paid attention to, NISA paid attention to. There are people who are asking if it wasn't Colin Martin, the only openly out gay male athlete in major team American professional sports. It's a lot of words, but that covers a lot of major leagues. And if it wasn't him and it wasn't Landon Donovan, someone that even just a casual sports fan would recognize and say like, oh, he's coaching that team now. Okay, well, he's standing up for it. Okay, so what else is going on? It's a lightning rod. It brings attention to it. It's necessary attention. It's not attention. It's not the good kind of attention. It's not that whole kind of like all press is good press thing. No, I'm not going to say like bad press because that kind of implies that the press is worthless, but it is difficult to read. It's difficult to watch. It's difficult to digest. I mean, as a member of the queer community, I identify as bisexual. It's something that I still have to like figure out, like, what do I do moving forward? Like when something like that happens. And I understand in that moment where that incident then it broadens, right? And I think that people start associating that and they say that's who this person is who said it. That's who this person who defended it is. And these two people are at the same club. Well, that makes it the whole club. And if it's the whole club and the fans are still kind of like supporting their guys in the playoffs, like, is that the fans too? Like, it doesn't need to escalate to that extent. I don't think it does. I think that a lot of that stuff, a lot of that fire fed itself. And some of that, it's still putting itself out, frankly. But I will say, I don't have the prescription in terms of this is how you handle it. This is how you go about, remedying it. But what I will say is that if the USL has not done that work and has not been able to put themselves in a better position so that if they have more hate speech on field, because keep in mind, 3 incidents in 2 seasons now. If they are not able to put themselves into a spot where it seriously not just like disincentivizes, but it makes sure that players feel safe stepping onto those fields and don't feel like they're walking into an arena. My Greyhound just suddenly showed up.
We love the
arena
puppies.
where they have welcomed this because of them purely being there doing their jobs. And if the USL doesn't nip that in the bud, that's when it becomes a much more troubling, worrisome thing at a macro level. There would be no worse mark to have than the league where people get away with this.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that.
Yeah, and it's true. And it's one of the things that USL is doing so many good things, honestly, for the sport of soccer, for the growth of it. And here, like we said, we weren't meant to really go so, gung-ho about a USL team because we didn't know anything about the USL. Now that we've gone into it, it's the magic of it. And that's hopefully something that we could stay in a little bit more when people say, oh, let's go to MLS, let's go this. That's like, the mom pop shop going corporate and then putting a Walmart there. Like the Walmart's great.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the Walmart's great, but you lose that mom pop, hey, I don't have $1. We'll take the soda pop anyways. Give it to me whenever you can, type of thing.
We probably wouldn't even get to know like the front staff people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
And it's that beautiful access. I do want to say though, Colin Martin did have a Q&A a couple years with you back at the Athletic. So if you do want to have a who is Colin Martin, I know we've had a lot of this, but this is who he is to a core, and it's not like it's inconsistent with the Colin Martin of today. But this is back in 2018. It's a good read. It's everything that comes out of Mr. Rueter's Twitter is hot fire.
Thanks, guys.
But I do want to ask as we just close it down, something that was brought over on the Fairweather podcast. Shout out to the guys over at Fairweather, is that you had a little adventure with karaoke involved and some drinking and whatnot.
I did.
So we'll keep it a little more PG. Hopefully, karaoke is a thing that I love personally, and not a lot of people know that. And if you admit openly that you sing karaoke, you love karaoke.
I do, of course. Yeah.
So, I was just wondering, like, what are your go-to songs? Like, I personally, just sorry, but I don't even have a song. I have an array of songs depending on the crowd. If it's a urban crowd, I'll go ahead and pull out, some kind of Linkin Park if I have somebody else to sing along with. The golden go-to is the Eminem. I'm amazing at Eminem. Or if I throw it back, Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. So, I mean, I can go anywhere.
That's a good shout too. The room changes everything. Right?
Yes.
And I think that you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, what's the energy? What does it need right now? The hard part is you have to anticipate like 5-10 songs in advance because of how the cues usually work at these places. But I think that you're looking and you say, if the room is just like a bunch of folks, I'm from the Midwest, a bunch of gringos who are just like chilling in a bar and wanting to, just kind of sing loud and people are singing over each other. Then you break out like, look, I will sing, I'll make a man out of you from Mulan. I will do it. And the crowd gets bumping. Everyone's excited. No one expects it. It's a good time. I have a good falsetto. I can put the Bee Gees out there. So I'll do Staying Alive. That song is much longer than you think.
Yes.
Having tried this, it is a 5-minute song and they sing for most of it. What did I sing last time? I sang Roses by Outkast with a few other friends.
Hey, there you go.
Party in the USA by Miley.
It's a good
I
one.
think that was Miley, not Hannah Montana, I think.
Yes.
The artist apologies if it was Hannah Montana and anyone cares. Those were the 4 I did last time, I think. A good Billy Joel. I mean, like, look, everyone's heard Piano Man. Piano Man gets sloppy by the end of it. I think that we can retire it. You can move on to Moving Out, Anthony's song. That's a solid one for crowds too. Everyone gets the ack.
Yeah.
Like, there's there's some good ones. I will say that throughout this pandemic, because now it's been like a full year plus since I've last even seen a karaoke venue, the amount of times where like a playlist is just going or you've just got radio on, whatever, and a song comes on, you're like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
and you're trying to envision like, how would this go? What am I doing with this? Do I need someone else for it? And it doesn't matter, and I forget it by the end of the song. But man, that is a deep cut. Can't believe you pulled that out. That's I miss it. I really do miss it. Actually, that is something that a group of friends and I got for a friend who had lost their job. She has since found a job, but we pulled together and we rented a karaoke room on the other side at her favorite bar so that we could all do this again. So I've got one waiting for me, which is good. I'm sure I'll have to find something new, but Billy Joel's a good idea.
Hey, whenever you come to San Diego, now I know what we're going to do. Tacos, karaoke bar. We're on it, Jeff. Really appreciate your time, Jeff. Go ahead and stick around real quick. We'll do a little follow-up, but go ahead and let the people know exactly where they can find you and all your great work.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jeff Rueter, and everything I do is at The Athletics. So subscribe, and thanks for reading along. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man. The best, Mr. Jeff Rueter. Thank you, man. Cool. And we are done recording.
Thank you for your time, man.
Sorry about the dog at the end.
Hey, no,
we
we are puppy friendly
yeah,
here.
we love
100% puppy
dogs.
friendly.